Coming up on Arirang News, South Korea's consumer sentiment rises for a third consecutive month, in part thanks to the government's relief payments. It's at the highest since the outbreak was in its early stages. South Korea's population continues to shrink. Deaths have outnumbered births for a seventh straight month. Marriage is down too, partly because of the pandemic. And it turns out that Korean grade school students now back in class have been far more likely to catch the virus at home than in the classroom. There's been only one case transmitted at school in around 2 months. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. President Moon Jae-in has officially appointed the new head of the National Intelligence Service, Park Ji-won, the new Minister of Unification, Lee In-young, and the head of the National Police Agency, Kim Chang-yong. He gave them their letters of appointment in a ceremony Wednesday, attended by the officials and their families. President Moon told Park and Lee that their duty is to get relations with North Korea going again. He stressed that the top office and related ministries need to work as one team to develop those ties. As for Kim, the president called on him to work so that police reform is carried out in a way that protects people and strengthens the democratic system. South Korea has confirmed coronavirus infections in 12 more Russian sailors on a ship in the port city of Busan. That raises the total number of cases on that ship to 44. Separately, a Russian sailor on a cargo ship docked in Incheon has also tested positive. Over the past month, at least 90 crew from 8 different ships in Busan have been confirmed infected. That's prompted the government today to announce tighter measures on sailors coming from Russia, requiring them to submit COVID-19 test results before they disembark. Including the 12 sailors, South Korea had 34 imported cases on Wednesday and 14 local cases. South Korea's schools have been holding classes in person for around 2 months now, and so far only one child has caught the coronavirus at school. Of the children who have caught the virus recently, the majority of them got it at home. Now the government's getting measures ready for foreign students to come back to Korean universities. Choi Jung-yoon has the details.
Concerns over COVID-19 infections at schools have brought unprecedented changes in South Korea. In a country where education is king, the starting of schools was pushed back several times, with most schools going online even after the reopenings. However, a recent report by South Korea's Central Disease Control Headquarters shows most children who caught COVID-19 actually contracted the disease at home. Out of 111 COVID-19 cases among 3 to 18-year-olds during the past 3 months, over 60% of the children contracted the virus from their family members. 16% caught it from private academies and tutoring, while 8% caught it at facilities like PC rooms and singing rooms or at religious gatherings. Only one case was related to a transmission at school, a 5th grader contracting the virus from a friend.
Strict quarantine measures in schools and the efforts of teachers, parents, and especially students who wore masks diligently helped prevent school-based cluster infections.
Meanwhile, to prevent COVID-19 cases from some 55,000 foreign university students expected before the second semester, the Education Ministry has urged them to take online classes in their own countries if possible. Classes that require face-to-face lessons are recommended to open in the first semester of next year. Students will also be exempt from the rule requiring them to enter the country within 15 days of the start of their semester.
Even if they do enter the country, we will secure quarantine facilities first before entry. We will also request that universities strictly monitor entrance, and we will guide them on penalties for breaking quarantine rules.
The government is also planning to stagger entries by issuing visas at different times and adjusting flight schedules. Specific plans regarding education will be announced next month. Choi Jung-yoon, Arirang News.
The South Korean company Access Bio, which makes medical diagnostic tests, has been approved to send its COVID-19 test kits to Brazil, having already been approved by the U.S. FDA. The company said Wednesday that Brazil's Drug Safety Ministry has approved them for emergency use. These kits are understood to be able to detect the virus in under 2 hours. With more than 2.4 million cases, Brazil is the country the pandemic's hit second hardest after the United States. In American pro basketball, the NBA is finally restarting its season after a 4-month hiatus. From Thursday, U.S. local time, all games will be played at the ESPN Wide World of Sports complex at Disney World in Florida, the facility known as the Bubble. The games won't be open to fans, though. The best 22 teams will each play 8 more regular season games before the playoffs start in mid-August. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver warned, however, that if COVID-19 spreads among the players and officials, then the season could be suspended again. As of last week, none of the players in the bubble had tested positive. South Korea's consumer sentiment in July is up for a third consecutive month, thanks in part to the government's economic measures like the COVID-19 relief payments. The Bank of Korea said Tuesday that the consumer sentiment index jumped 2.4 points on month to just over 84, 100 being neutral. That's the highest since February, when the virus outbreak in Korea was in its early stages. The index for consumers' current financial status was up 5 points, and their financial outlook remained the same at 70. To help young people in Seoul get through the downturn in the economy, the city government is going to give 5,000 of them temporary jobs. The city said on Sunday that Seoul residents aged 19 to 39 can apply on its website. Around 3,800 of the jobs are at the city's schools, disinfecting classrooms and supporting online lectures. Other jobs include IT for nonprofit organizations. The application period is only 2 days long, on August 3rd and 4th, and the jobs could last up to 5 months. South Korea's population has been on a steady decline for a 7th straight month with no sign of a turnaround. According to Statistics Korea, the numbers of babies born and new marriages in May were at the lowest on record for that month. On year, the number of babies born fell 9.3% and marriages were down 21.3%. The agency attributed the low marriage numbers to a shrinking number of people in their 30s and to the pandemic. Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Young Jun-seok, professor of economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Young, thank you for making time today.
Happy to be here.
Well, stocks in New York were down overnight. Investors still trying to figure out the latest stimulus bill. In Korea, the Kospi and the Kosdaq were up a little bit. What's the story in the global markets and here in Korea?
Okay, well, as you mentioned, the U.S. stock market, Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ all rose on Monday but fell on Tuesday. And much of that is now due to the earnings reports that are starting to come out in the United States. They are down from last year's second quarter, which is expected. But about two-thirds of them, though, did not fall as much as the analysts expected, so that could be seen as a bit of a good news. But I think some of the bad news is catching up to the market. As you mentioned, the U.S. coronavirus budget is a factor in the stock market. The Senate Republicans started to formulate the plans a bit late into the process. They have finally come up with a plan, but some of the details are very controversial, especially dealing with the $600 weekly unemployment insurance payments for the unemployed. Virtually all Democrats want that $600 to be retained, but in the Republican camp, there's a lot of disagreement. Some want the $600 to be retained, some want it reduced to $200, or some want it back to the normal levels of unemployment, and that is causing a lot of instability in the expectations, and that may be affecting the market. Also, there's some strange items that are included in the coronavirus bill. That includes purchases of weaponry for the U.S. military, as well as the budget to move the FBI building from its current location. Some are arguing that this is President Trump's attempt to move the FBI building closer to one of his hotels. But if they do not agree on the stimulus package, the unemployment insurance will run out by the end of July, and that means people who have been getting $600 unemployment payment regularly will maybe caught up in a large reduction of the unemployment payments. European markets have been holding more or less steady so far this week. Shanghai, it rose 2% today, reportedly because the Chinese industrial output has gone up a surprisingly a large amount. Hong Kong is up yesterday and today. Japan is slightly down because they've been having some bad earnings news. And KOSPI and KOSDAQ, as you mentioned, they've been up this week. Some market observers speculate that it's because foreigners are returning to the market. The increases in the Korean stock market have been driven mostly by foreigners for this week.
Well, amid all this uncertainty, not to mention expectations for inflation down the road, possibly, gold's been setting new record highs multiple days in a row. A lot of people expect it'll keep going up. What's your view, Professor?
Okay, in the short run, it'll probably go up. The gold closed at $1,942 dollars per ounce on Monday, U.S. time. The previous high was in August 2011 when it hit $1,892 in August. And during the intraday, the highest was $1,923.70. So obviously, it's gone beyond the previous historical highs of 2011. Now, this is not unusual. Whenever there's a time of economic instability, we've seen this during the Latin American currency crisis, the Asian currency crisis, global financial crisis. The international investors flee to cash and bonds, U.S. dollars and gold. And that part of that seems to be what's happening right now. People are turning to cash and gold. People used to turn to U.S. dollar as well, but in the last few weeks, the U.S. dollar has been weakening, I think because the United States right now is the only advanced economy where the coronavirus is getting worse and not better. So that is taking the U.S. dollar out of the usual picture, but the value of gold going up, people seeking more cash, that is not unusual. The investment banks are saying that gold may hit somewhere in the $2,000 and $2,100 range by autumn. Goldman Sachs is predicting $2,300 per ounce by July next year. Bank of America is targeting $3,000 by the end of next year. I wouldn't trust some of these longer-term forecasts, though, because if the coronavirus comes under control, then the situation may suddenly turn around. But in the short run, it'll certainly go beyond $2,000 because, well, as long as the coronavirus is not under control, the international global markets will be unsteady.
All right, well, we're almost out of time, Professor, but what are you looking for in this Fed Open Markets Committee meeting this week?
Okay, well, they're not going to lower the interest rates any further because they're at 0%. So the question is how the Fed sees the economy and what other types of policies will come into play. They've already said that they will continue to make emergency loan programs until the end of the year. But the one question that a lot of observers are asking is whether the Fed will try yield control curve or the YCC, that is effectively setting interest returns at every maturity instead of just the short term. And it's been only used in wartime, but a lot of people are speculating that if the situation becomes worse, Fed will have no choice but to use YCC as a tool. The Fed has said that it is looking at the program, but it doesn't want to use it right now. I think a lot of people will see whether the Fed will seriously consider using the YCC in the near future.
Very interesting. All right, Professor, thanks so much for sharing your insights today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
In France, assembly has begun on the world's biggest nuclear fusion reactor as an experiment to see if fusion can really be a source of limitless, clean energy. The answer has eluded scientists for decades. It's an international project, and South Korea is playing a key role. Lee Kyung-eun explains.
For decades, scientists have been trying to generate energy by nuclear fusion. In France on Tuesday, scientists reached a key milestone in their journey, starting the main construction for ITER, the world's largest nuclear fusion reactor. 7 countries are working together on the project, including South Korea, France, and the US, and it has taken them 10 years to get this far.
Today is an historical moment. Fusion energy is a gift of gods.
The idea is to create the energy in the same way that drives the sun. Fusion power combines or fuses 2 or more hydrogen atoms at very high temperatures to generate a lot of energy. It's opposite of conventional nuclear power, which splits atoms to release energy. South Korea's president has previously called nuclear fusion an artificial sun, which gives hope to the world by providing a clean and safe energy source.
인공태양은 꿈의 에너지입니다. 바닷물을 활용해 거의 무한정 생산이 가능하고 방사능 위험이나 온실가스 배출도 없는 청정 에너지입니다.
South Korea is expected to play a key role in the project, given its past experience of creating a fusion reactor, as well as making major contributions in the project's early stages.
The celebration for the start of machine assembly was possible because South Korea sent key parts. Korea's contribution basically accounts for 70 to 80%.
Despite the theoretical benefits, there are questions over whether nuclear fusion will actually work in the real world. And ITER looks to find the answer to that by 2025. 이경은, 아리랑 뉴스.
And that does it for this newscast. Thank you for watching.